This is my true story. My wife cheated with my best friend while mocking my love. She thought I would never find out, but I did. And instead of shouting or fighting, I stood in front of everyone and revealed them. This story is not about hate. It is about truth. Many men suffer in silence, but I chose to stand tall. Before I tell you how it happened, tell me in the comments where you are watching from, and please subscribe to this channel so more people can hear my stories. Now, let me begin. In my younger years, I lived with a heart full of loyalty. My life was simple, but my love and trust were deep. I believed that a man's purpose was to protect and provide for his family, and I lived every day by that belief. My wife was at the center of my world. When I married her, I promised myself that no matter how hard life became, I would stand by her. I worked long hours, I saved every coin, I built a home with my own hands, and every sacrifice I made for her comfort. She was my pride. When she smiled, I felt like all my struggles had meaning. I never doubted her, not even for a second. My love was pure, simple, and complete. At the same time, I had a best friend who was more than just a friend. He was like a brother to me. We grew up together. We shared our childhood, our youth, our dreams, and our fears. We stood together through fights, through joy, through sorrow. When I was weak, he held me up. When he was weak, I held him up. Trusting him came as naturally as breathing. He knew everything about me. He knew my struggles, my secrets, my pain, and my hopes. I believed he would never hurt me. I believed he was family. With my wife and my best friend beside me, I felt like I was the luckiest man alive. One gave me love, the other gave me loyalty, and I gave them both everything I had. Many people live their lives surrounded by strangers they cannot trust, but I thought my life was different. I thought my circle was pure. My wife was my safe place, and my best friend was my shield. Together, they were my strength. I poured my energy into building a good life for all of us. I worked day and night, never thinking of myself. If my wife needed something, I tried to provide it. If my friend needed help, I gave it. I never held back, because loyalty is not about counting favors. Loyalty is about giving without expecting anything in return. And I gave again and again, year after year. Even in small moments, I showed my love and loyalty. When my wife was sick, I stayed awake by her side. When my best friend was in trouble, I stood up for him. I did not ask for thanks. I did not ask for praise. My reward was their happiness, their safety, their comfort. That was enough for me. People say love can make a man blind, but I did not see it as blindness. I saw it as trust. I believed in them, and I never questioned them. My wife's word was truth to me. My best friend's word was law to me. If they said something, I believed it without doubt. That is how much I trusted them. That is how much loyalty I carried in my heart. Looking back now, I realize how much of myself I gave away. I built my life on loyalty, and I thought they built theirs on the same ground. I thought my love for my wife was returned with equal love. I thought my trust in my friend was returned with equal trust. For many years, I lived in peace with this belief. I never worried. I never suspected. I never thought betrayal could ever touch me. My wife was my pride. I looked at her with eyes full of admiration. I thought she was a blessing in my life, someone who would walk with me until my last breath. I gave her the best years of my life, the strongest years of my body, the softest years of my heart. She was the one I wanted to grow old with, to sit beside when the hair turned gray and the steps grew weak. My best friend was my strength. I looked at him as the brother destiny gave me. Blood did not connect us, but loyalty did. And sometimes, loyalty feels stronger than blood. He was the man I trusted to stand beside me in battles, the man I trusted to protect my secrets, the man I trusted to never betray me. Together, they made me feel complete. One gave me love, one gave me loyalty, and I gave them both my whole heart. I thought I had everything. I thought nothing could shake this bond. I thought the ground beneath me was solid. But what I did not know was this. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who can cut you the deepest. Sometimes the people you protect are the very ones who will destroy you. I did not see it then. I lived blind in my loyalty, proud of my trust, happy in my ignorance. I believed I was living a blessed life, when in truth, I was walking toward betrayal. Still, if you ask me today, I will not say my loyalty was a mistake. I will not say my love was wasted, because loyalty shows the heart of the giver, not the receiver. My loyalty was real, my love was real, and though they broke it, they could not erase it from who I was. A man's loyalty is not measured by how others treat him. It is measured by how he lives, how he gives, how he loves. That was me, a man full of loyalty, blinded by trust, proud of his love. I gave them everything, and for a long time, I believed they gave the same in return. That is the truth of my younger years. A truth that carried me until the day I finally saw the cracks in my perfect world. The first signs of betrayal never arrive loudly. They arrive softly, like whispers in the wind, almost invisible. That is how it began for me. At first, I noticed small things so small that my heart told me not to worry. My wife laughed at my friend's jokes in a way she did not laugh at mine. Her laughter was louder, longer, filled with more joy. I told myself it was nothing. People laughed differently. Maybe she just found his jokes funnier. I brushed it aside. I did not want to doubt her. I did not want to doubt him. But slowly, those small things began to add up. My wife's eyes shone brighter when she looked at him. Her smile became warmer in his presence. Around me, her smile was soft and quiet. Around him, her smile was wide and glowing. I told myself it was my imagination. I convinced myself love was stronger than suspicion. After all, this was my wife. This was my best friend. They were the two people I trusted most in this world. Why should I doubt them? Still, the changes grew. My friend started visiting more often. At first, it was only when I was at home. He would come to share a meal, to drink tea, to talk. That seemed normal. We had always spent time together. But soon, he began to visit even when I was not there. He said he came to drop something off, to help with something, to say hello. My heart felt uneasy, but my mind told me not to overthink. I believed in them. I trusted them. I told myself suspicion would only poison my love and loyalty. So I buried the thought. But even when I buried it, the signs did not stop. My wife lingered near him at gatherings. Her hand would touch his arm too long. Her laughter would echo too much. When she spoke to him, her tone was softer, sweeter, filled with a light I had not heard in years. Around me, her tone was plain, tired, sometimes even sharp. I noticed this difference, but I refused to accept it. My loyalty blinded me. My trust silenced me. Sometimes I caught my friend watching her. His eyes followed her movements. When she walked into the room, he noticed before anyone else. When she spoke, he leaned closer, listening with more attention than needed. These things burned quietly in my chest. But instead of asking questions, I turned away. I told myself he was my brother. I told myself she was my wife. I told myself love and loyalty were stronger than suspicion. The changes grew harder to ignore. My wife began to dress differently when she knew he was coming. She fixed her hair more carefully. She wore clothes she did not wear for me. She added perfume. At first, I felt proud. I thought maybe she wanted to look nice for the house, for our guests. I told myself it was natural. But deep inside, I felt something was wrong. My heart whispered doubts, but my mind shouted trust. So I stayed blind. People around us might have seen it. Maybe they noticed the way she laughed at him, the way he looked at her, the way they stood too close. Perhaps whispers spread behind my back, but no one told me, and even if they had, I would not have believed them. My loyalty was too strong. My trust was too blind. I believed I was safe in my circle of love and friendship. But little by little, those subtle shifts chipped away at my peace. I began to feel uneasy in my own home. When my friend knocked at the door, my heart no longer leapt with joy. It tightened with doubt. When my wife smiled at him, my chest grew heavy. I pushed the feelings down, telling myself I was foolish. But the unease remained. I started to see patterns. She was happier when he was around. She was distant when it was only the two of us. He seemed more alive in her presence. He seemed colder when alone with me. Together, they seemed to share an invisible thread, a bond I could not explain. And I stood outside that bond, blind but hurting. The betrayal had not yet revealed itself fully, but its shadow was already upon me. These subtle shifts were like cracks in a wall. At first, you ignore them. You think the wall is strong. But slowly, the cracks grow. Slowly, the wall weakens. Until one day the wall collapses, and you realize it had been breaking all along. That was my life. My trust was the wall. Their betrayal was the cracks. And I was too blind to see the danger. Even now, when I think back, I realize how clearly the signs were there. A husband should notice when his wife changes. A man should notice when his friend changes. But love makes the eyes blind, and loyalty makes the heart stubborn. I refused to see. I refused to accept. I wanted to believe my wife loved me as I loved her. I wanted to believe my friend respected me as I respected him. So I ignored the subtle shifts. I buried my doubts. I carried on with life as if everything was normal. But deep inside, my heart was uneasy. Deep inside, I knew something was breaking. I did not yet know the depth of betrayal waiting for me, but I could feel its shadow creeping closer with every laugh, every smile, every visit. That is how betrayal begins, not with a storm, but with a whisper, not with a knife, but with a smile. And I, blinded by loyalty, welcomed that smile, never seeing the knife behind it. The moment that broke me did not come with sight, but with sound. One evening, I returned home earlier than expected. I moved quietly through the house, not wanting to disturb anyone. That is when I heard voices behind a closed door. They did not know I was near. I paused, and I listened. What I heard in those moments changed me forever. It was my wife's voice first. She laughed, but it was not the laugh of love. It was the laugh of mockery. She said I was too simple, too blind in love. She said I trusted her too much, that I would never see the truth even if it stood in front of me. Her words cut into me like sharp blades. To hear the woman I had given my life to, mocking the very love I had built for her, was a pain I cannot fully describe. Then came my friend's voice, the man I had trusted like a brother. He laughed with her, louder and harder, feeding on her cruel words. He said I was easy to fool. He said I would never find out. He joined her in mocking my devotion, mocking the loyalty that had been the foundation of my entire life. Each word felt like fire in my chest, burning deeper and deeper. I stood there frozen, listening to the two people I loved most, tearing apart the very heart I had given them. They were not only betraying me in secret, they were mocking me for my loyalty, mocking me for my love, mocking me for being the man who trusted them completely. The betrayal was already heavy, but the cruelty of their laughter made it unbearable. Betrayal wounds a man, but mockery crushes his spirit. I remembered the nights I had stayed awake beside my wife when she was sick. I remembered the years I had broken my body at work to give her comfort. I remembered the sacrifices I made so she could smile. And now, that same smile was turned against me, used as a weapon in the dark. I remembered the secrets I had shared with my friend, the trust I had placed in him since childhood. I remembered the moments when I defended him, when I lifted him in times of need, when I treated him as my own blood. And now, that same man laughed at my back, enjoying my blindness, enjoying my pain, even though I had not yet confronted him. It is one thing to be betrayed, it is another thing to be mocked for your love. Their words told me something deeper than betrayal. They told me I was never respected. To them, my love was weakness. My trust was foolishness. My loyalty was blindness. They did not value me. They only used me, and then they laughed about it when they thought I could not hear. I cannot explain how long I stood there, frozen by their words. My body felt heavy. My chest felt tight. My heart felt like it was breaking apart piece by piece. I wanted to rush in, to scream, to demand answers. But something stronger held me back. A voice inside me said, "Stay silent. Listen. Learn the truth." So I did. I stood in the shadows and let their cruelty cut me open. In that moment, I realized that the life I thought I had built was an illusion. My wife did not love me as I loved her. My friend did not respect me as I respected him. Everything I had believed in, everything I had given myself to, was being mocked behind closed doors. I had been blind, and they knew it. They enjoyed it. They laughed at it. Those words never left me. Even today, as an old man, I can still hear them in my head. Her voice, calling me blind. His voice, saying I was easy to fool. Their laughter, joined together in cruelty. These sounds cut deeper than any knife. A knife wounds the body. Words wound the soul. And their words scarred me forever. That night changed me. I went to bed, but sleep never came. I lay awake, my mind replaying every moment of my life with them. I questioned everything. Every smile, every laugh, every touch, every word. Was it all fake? Was it all a lie? I had thought my life was built on love and loyalty, but now it seemed it was built on betrayal and mockery. I did not confront them that night. I did not shout. I did not break the door open. I lay in silence, broken but thinking. I realized that anger would make me weak. Shouting would make me look like a fool. But silence gave me power. Silence gave me time. Silence gave me a plan. Their mockery hurt me, but it also opened my eyes. I could no longer deny what was happening. The subtle shifts I had ignored were real. The unease in my chest had been true. I was betrayed. And not only betrayed, but mocked. That mockery turned my pain into something sharper. It gave me a purpose. I would not let their laughter be the final word. I would not let their cruelty go unanswered. In the end, that cruel mockery became my turning point. It was the moment I stopped being blind. It was the moment I stopped trusting blindly. It was the moment I decided that if they laughed at my love, I would make them choke on their lies. I would not fight them with fists. I would not fight them with screams. I would fight them with truth. That night, my love turned into resolve. My loyalty turned into clarity. My trust turned into strategy. Their mockery broke me, but it also built me again, harder and sharper. They thought I was too blind to see. They thought I was too weak to act, but they were wrong. That cruel laughter was the last time they would laugh at me in secret. After that night, nothing felt the same. I went through my days, but my mind was heavy. My heart was heavy. Sleep left me. Rest left me. Every night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing their voices in my head again and again. My wife's mockery. My friend's laughter. Each word played like a record in my mind. It hurt, but I could not cry. The pain was too deep for tears. It was silent agony, a fire inside that burned without end. I remembered the years I had spent building a life for them. I remembered the nights I worked late, tired and aching, so that our home would have food and warmth. I remembered the mornings I woke before dawn to provide, to protect, to support. I remembered all the little things I had done, fixing broken things, carrying heavy bags, keeping peace when arguments came, listening to worries that were not mine. I remembered the sacrifices I had made for my wife, and now all of that seemed meaningless in the face of their betrayal. I thought of the secrets I had shared with my best friend. I had trusted him with everything, my hopes, my fears, my pain, my dreams. I had told him things no one else knew. I had helped him, supported him, defended him. And in return, he had laughed at me, shared my secrets, and joined my wife in mocking my love. The betrayal cut both ways, and the pain was doubled. Days passed, but nothing changed. I walked through the house, looked at their faces, and saw the betrayal in every smile. Even when they were polite, even when they acted normal, I knew the truth. They had turned their loyalty into a lie. Their love was a mask, and I carried that knowledge silently every hour of every day. I tried to talk to myself, to find comfort, but comfort did not come. I told myself to move on, to ignore them, to forget. But the mind does not forget what the heart cannot forgive. Their laughter haunted me. Their mockery lived in my chest. Every memory of giving, of caring, of trusting was now tainted by the knowledge of betrayal. I walked through the streets and saw couples, friends, and families. I wondered if they knew the pain of betrayal. I wondered if anyone could understand what it felt like to love so deeply, to trust so completely, and to be mocked for it. I felt alone, completely alone. Even in a house full of people, I was isolated. Even in a family I had built, I was a stranger. The silent agony grew heavier at night. I could not sleep, and when I tried, my dreams betrayed me. I saw them together. I saw them laughing at my face. I saw the smiles, the touches, the hidden gestures of affection I had been blind to. I woke up sweating, heart racing, body shaking. I wanted to scream, but I could not. I wanted to fight, but I had no weapons except patience and truth. I began to watch them quietly. I watched their movements, their habits, their closeness. Every subtle sign, every small gesture, I noted and remembered. Even in my silent agony, my mind became sharper. Pain had sharpened my senses. Anguish had taught me to observe. Betrayal had made me alert. I could no longer ignore what I had once dismissed. I could no longer pretend that everything was normal. At the same time, I began to feel the weight of my own mistakes. I had been too trusting. I had been too blind. I had given everything without question. I had allowed subtle signs to go unnoticed. My loyalty, which I had believed was a strength, had been used against me. And now I suffered quietly, learning the harsh lesson that love without caution can be dangerous. I did not speak of my pain. I did not tell anyone. People would have called me weak or foolish or dramatic. And I was none of those things. I was a man broken by betrayal, a man carrying a fire inside that no one could see. My agony was my own. It lived in my chest, in my mind, in my soul. It was a silent companion that I could not escape. Even as I suffered, I began to plan. Silent agony is painful, but it gives clarity. My pain told me one thing clearly. Anger and shouting would only make me weak. Tears would only make me vulnerable. Silence and patience, however, could turn this pain into power. The fire in my chest, fed by betrayal, could be shaped into resolve. I began to collect my thoughts. I began to organize my memories. I wrote down moments in my mind, pieced together signs I had ignored, and formed a map of their betrayal. In my silent agony, I found strength. I realized that even though they had hurt me, I had the ability to act. I had the power to turn the truth into my weapon. And so, each day of silent suffering became a step closer to action. I may have been broken inside, but my mind was alive, focused, and sharp. I knew the moment would come when patience and proof would be more powerful than any scream or fist. I learned to carry my silent agony like armor, a reminder that those who betray will always face the consequences of their own arrogance. Silent agony is heavy, but it can teach. It can make a man think, plan, and prepare. It can turn pain into purpose, and that is what it did for me. Every restless night, every trembling heartbeat, every flash of memory of their mockery, it all shaped me into a man ready to reveal the truth. By the end of that period, I was no longer the same man who had once been blind with trust. I had learned the signs. I had endured the pain. I had survived the mockery. And though my heart ached, my resolve was firm. The agony was not meaningless. It was preparation. It was shaping me into someone who would no longer be a victim. I understood finally that silent suffering is not weakness. It is endurance. It is learning. It is strength that builds quietly. My silent agony became the foundation of my next steps, the strength I would use when the moment of truth came. The breaking point came quietly, yet it struck me harder than anything before. It was not a dramatic moment with shouting or banging doors. It was a single evening, ordinary at first, but it changed everything. I returned home earlier than usual, not expecting anything, just wanting a moment to rest. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it. A tension in the air, a heaviness in the house. Something had shifted. My heart tightened in my chest, a warning I could not ignore. I moved slowly, carefully, my eyes scanning the rooms as I passed. Then I heard it. Voices, laughter, whispers. My stomach turned. I already knew what I would see, yet part of me refused to believe it. I followed the sounds, each step heavier than the last. And then I saw them. My wife and my best friend, together. Not in casual conversation, not in normal friendship, but together in a way that confirmed every fear I had quietly nursed. The sight struck me like a physical blow. Their faces did not show shame, they did not show regret, they were not embarrassed. They looked at me, and instead of hiding, instead of apologizing, they seemed arrogant, untouchable. It was as if they were daring me to see, daring me to react. That look in their eyes was worse than any words, worse than any laughter. It told me they believed they had won. They believed I would be powerless. That moment changed my heartbreak into something else, something sharp and cold. It turned my sorrow into resolve. I stood there frozen for a moment. My mind raced, but my body refused to act. I thought of all the years of loyalty, all the sacrifices, all the trust I had given, and I thought of the cruel mockery, the silent agony, the subtle shifts I had ignored. Every sign, every warning, every ache in my heart had led to this moment. Now, nothing was hidden. Everything was clear. Their betrayal was complete, undeniable, and right before my eyes. In that instant, a strange clarity took over me. The pain was sharp, but it was precise. My heart screamed, but my mind whispered. Anger would only make me weak. Shouting would only feed their arrogance. Tears would only give them satisfaction. No, I decided in that moment that I would not act like a fool. I would not let them see me lose control. I would turn their confidence against them. I would wait, and I would act at the right moment. As I watched them, I realized that years of trust had been used as a weapon against me. My love had been ignored, my loyalty had been ridiculed, my patience had been tested, and yet, in that moment, I felt a strange power rising inside me. I may have been broken in spirit, but I was not broken in mind. I could see the full scope of their betrayal. I could feel the path I would take. The breaking point was not the end of me. It was the beginning of action. I remembered every secret I had shared with my best friend, every story I had trusted him with, every sacrifice I had made for my wife. All of it had been used as fuel for their arrogance, yet now it became fuel for my resolve. I understood then that witnessing the betrayal fully, seeing it with my own eyes, gave me what I needed most: certainty. I no longer doubted. I no longer questioned. I knew exactly who they were, and I knew exactly what I would do. The breaking point is not always loud. Often it is quiet, deep, and personal. It is a moment when the heart finally says, enough. When the mind turns pain into purpose. When the spirit becomes sharp with intention. That is what happened to me. The breaking point was not about violence or chaos. It was about clarity. It was about understanding that the time for passive suffering had ended. The time for truth had begun. I left that room without making a sound. I walked through the house, my steps steady, my heart pounding, but my mind clear. I began to think about what I would do next. I thought of proof, of evidence, of the moment when their arrogance would meet reality. The breaking point was the moment I decided I would not cry. I would not beg. I would not fight with fists. I would fight with truth. And truth, I realized, was more powerful than anything they could imagine. That night, sleep did not come easily. My mind was alive, planning, remembering, connecting every subtle sign, every small shift, every cruel word. The breaking point had awakened something in me: patience, calculation, strategy. The agony of the past nights now served a purpose. Every sleepless hour, every memory of mockery, every ache of betrayal became a tool I could use. By morning, the pain was still there, but it was tempered by resolve. I was no longer the man who had ignored the signs. The man who had trusted blindly. The man who had suffered in silence. The breaking point had transformed me. It had sharpened me. It had prepared me for the next steps, steps I would take with calm precision. I understood finally that the breaking point is not the end of suffering. It is the moment when suffering becomes action. It is the moment when heartbreak is transformed into purpose. And from that night forward, I was no longer a passive victim. I was a man ready to reveal truth, a man ready to expose lies, a man ready to reclaim the respect and dignity that had been stolen from me. After the breaking point, I realized that anger or confrontation would not help me. Shouting would make me look weak. Tears would make me seem helpless. I needed a plan, a calm, clear, precise plan. I decided that I would not fight them with chaos. I would fight them with truth. I would let their actions speak against them, and I would prepare the proof that would expose everything. The first step was observation. I watched them carefully, noting every movement, every habit, every hidden glance. I remembered the subtle shifts, the small gestures I had once ignored. Now, I recorded them in my mind, step by step. Every detail mattered. Every small piece of evidence could become part of the bigger picture. I became silent, calm, and patient. But inside, I was sharp, calculating, ready. Next, I collected proof. I took photos when I could, without being seen. I saved messages, texts, and emails that showed their betrayal. I recorded conversations when possible, not to spy, but to capture the truth. I knew that memory alone would not be enough. I needed something undeniable, something that could be presented in front of others without argument. I wanted evidence that could not be denied. I planned the timing carefully. I knew that confrontation in private would give them the chance to lie. I knew that shouting at home would only make them defensive. I needed a moment when all eyes were on them, when family and friends were present, when their shame could not be hidden. That was when I would reveal everything. I wanted the exposure to be public, precise, and final. In my mind, I imagined the moment. I pictured myself standing calmly, holding the proof, letting everyone see the truth. I imagined the gasps, the silence, the shock on their faces. I imagined my wife and my best friend realizing that they could not escape the consequences of their actions. The plan gave me focus. It gave me strength. It turned my silent agony into preparation. I also understood that patience was key. I could not rush. I could not act too soon. I had to wait until the moment was right. If I acted too early, the impact would be weaker. If I acted with anger, they could twist the story. But if I waited, if I collected everything carefully, if I presented the truth at the perfect moment, it would be unstoppable. During this time, I remained calm in front of them. I smiled when I had to. I spoke when I had to. I acted as if everything was normal, but inside, I was preparing. I was patient. I was silent. I was waiting for the day when their lies would collapse. This was not revenge through violence. This was revenge through clarity, through truth, through exposure. I also prepared myself mentally. I knew that standing in front of everyone to reveal them would be hard. I knew it would be emotional, but I reminded myself that anger would only weaken me. Calmness would strengthen me. Confidence in the truth would give me power. I practiced being steady, being quiet, being firm. I imagined their faces and how they would react. I imagined holding the proof and letting it speak louder than any words. I thought about the consequences for them. My wife had betrayed our marriage, but her pride would be her downfall. My best friend had betrayed our brotherhood, but his arrogance would destroy him. I did not need to fight. I only needed to show the truth. The plan was simple, but effective. Evidence, timing, patience, calmness. That was all I needed. Every day, I strengthened my plan. I organized the proof in order. I made sure everything was clear and undeniable. I planned the moment I would speak. I thought about who would be present. I considered how to act calmly, how to let the truth speak for itself. The more I prepared, the more confident I became. The agony of betrayal became fuel for action, not despair. Finally, I knew the plan was ready. I had watched, collected, and organized. I had waited, strengthened, and prepared. I had turned pain into strategy, betrayal into clarity, mockery into purpose. The time would come when everything would be revealed, and their arrogance would be their undoing. My loyalty and love had been mocked, but now, truth would be my weapon. At last, I understood fully that the plan of truth is stronger than anger. Exposure is stronger than shouting. Calmness is stronger than rage. By waiting, by preparing, by collecting proof, I had built a foundation that could not be broken. The plan was simple, but the power was immense. I would reveal them, not out of hate, not out of revenge, but out of the need for truth. That is the moment when patience became my ally, when silent agony became my teacher, when betrayal became my motivation. I was ready. I was calm. I was prepared. And soon, in front of everyone, the lies would fall apart. The plan of truth would succeed, and their arrogance would be exposed. The day of the public reveal came quietly, without warning to anyone else. I arrived at the family gathering like I had arrived at so many others before. I smiled, greeted people, and acted normal. But inside, my heart was steady. My mind was sharp. Every detail of my plan was clear. Every piece of proof was ready. I knew this was the moment I would expose the betrayal that had haunted me for years. I waited for the right moment, the moment when all eyes were on me, the moment when silence would heighten attention. I did not rush. I did not shout. I did not let anger show. Calmness was my weapon. The room was filled with family, friends, and people who knew us. Some were unaware of the tension, some may have suspected, but none were prepared for the truth I was about to reveal. I began by standing, holding the evidence in my hands. I did not speak immediately. I let eyes turn to me. I let the room notice my presence. The silence was powerful. People began to sense that something was different. I could feel the anticipation growing. My wife and my best friend looked at me, confused, uncertain. Their arrogance faltered slightly. I did not move in anger. I only held the truth, and the truth was stronger than anything else. Then I revealed the evidence. I showed photos, messages, and recordings. Every detail of their betrayal was displayed for all to see. There was no hiding, no excuse, no escape. The proof was clear. The truth was undeniable. The room filled with gasps. Eyes widened. Whispers began to spread like wildfire. The world I had once thought was safe and trusting now became a courtroom, and the verdict was already clear. Their faces changed. Shock replaced arrogance. Confusion replaced confidence. Pride turned into fear. They had believed they could continue their betrayal in secret, that they could mock my loyalty without consequence. But now, in front of everyone, the lies crumbled. Their shame was public. Their pride was stripped away. They were exposed for what they truly were. People around us reacted immediately. Some covered their mouths in disbelief. Some stared in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Some turned to my wife and my best friend, asking questions, seeking explanations. There were no answers that could defend them. The truth is stronger than lies. The evidence I held left no room for manipulation, no room for deception. Their world of mockery collapsed in front of their eyes. I stood calmly through it all. I did not shout. I did not cry. I did not plead. I let the evidence speak. Every picture, every message, every recording told the story that words alone could not. Every betrayal they had committed, every cruel laugh, every hidden act, it was all displayed for everyone to see. And as the room absorbed the truth, I felt a strange sense of peace. My wife could not hide behind charm. My friend could not hide behind loyalty. Every mask was removed. People saw them as they truly were, not as they had pretended to be. The shock and shame that crossed their faces was the only reaction they could muster. And for the first time, I realized that exposure, not anger, not violence, was the most powerful form of revenge. The room slowly settled into whispers. Eyes that had once ignored signs now looked directly at the betrayal. Some turned away in disbelief. Some approached me quietly, expressing support, sharing shock, and acknowledging the truth. I realized then that the strength of truth is greater than the cruelty of betrayal. By exposing them calmly and clearly, I had regained my dignity and authority. In that moment, I felt the weight of years lift slightly. The pain of mockery, the agony of betrayal, the heartbreak of trust lost, all of it became part of the revelation. The suffering I had endured silently transformed into power. The broken loyalty I had once mourned became the foundation of justice. The mockery of my love now became the instrument of exposure. The public reveal did not end with dramatic confrontation. There were no fights, no shouting, no physical anger. The evidence alone did the work. The room understood. Family members and friends could see for themselves. My wife and my best friend were no longer protected by pretense. Their shame was complete. Their arrogance was gone. And I, who had suffered in silence for so long, now stood tall, calm, and respected. From that day forward, nothing would be the same for them. Their betrayal could not be hidden again. Their arrogance could not be displayed without consequences. And for me, the act of exposing them in public restored something I had thought was lost: control, dignity, and the certainty that truth always prevails. The public reveal is a moment of power. It is not about revenge through violence. It is about the strength of evidence, the patience of preparation, and the courage to act calmly. By letting the truth speak, I took back the respect that had been stolen from me. The betrayal was no longer hidden, the mockery no longer private, and my loyalty finally honored by the exposure of their lies. After the public reveal, nothing remained the same. The air was heavy with shock and disbelief. People were quiet at first, processing what they had just seen. The truth had hit everyone hard. My wife's family turned on her almost immediately. They had trusted her, supported her, and believed in her loyalty. But seeing the evidence in front of their eyes shattered that trust. Their pride and belief in her dissolved into disgust and anger. They could no longer protect her from the consequences of her actions. Her friends and family distanced themselves quickly. Invitations stopped, calls went unanswered, and visits ended. The social ties she had built over the years were broken. People who had once smiled with her now turned their backs. The trust she had taken for granted was gone. She had mocked my love and betrayed the bonds of family, and now those bonds were severed. She stood alone, and every glance she received reminded her of the shame that was now public. My best friend faced similar consequences. People who had once admired him, trusted him, and called him brother could no longer do so. His reputation, carefully built over years, crumbled in front of everyone. He had joined my wife in mocking my loyalty, betraying our friendship, and now the result was clear. Those who had respected him now avoided him. Those who had relied on him now questioned him. He had lost the respect he had once taken as a right. The bond they had broken was the most powerful force against them. My loyalty, my love, and my trust had been the foundation of their world, and by betraying it, they isolated themselves. No amount of charm, excuses, or lies could repair what they had destroyed. Their shame was public. Their pride had been stripped away, and they could not rebuild what they had destroyed. Meanwhile, I felt a strange sense of peace. The evidence had been revealed. The truth had spoken for itself. I did not need to shout, plead, or fight. The exposure had done what years of anger could not. People now saw them for who they truly were. My suffering, my silent agony, and my careful planning had led to this moment. The aftermath was a quiet but powerful vindication. Life continued around me. People moved on, but their perception of my wife and my friend had changed permanently. Invitations stopped coming to her. Calls went unanswered. His reputation at work and in social circles diminished. They were no longer the same people to those who once valued them. The consequences of their betrayal followed them wherever they went, and the public reveal ensured that there was no hiding. I, on the other hand, began to rebuild quietly. My dignity, once threatened, was restored. People saw my calm, my patience, and my wisdom in handling the situation. They respected my restraint and the strength it took to prepare and reveal the truth carefully. My position, once undermined by betrayal, now became one of quiet authority. People recognized that my loyalty and love had been true, and that truth had finally been honored. The aftermath also taught me something about human nature. Betrayal may bring temporary satisfaction to the betrayer, but arrogance and pride never last. Those who mock love, trust, and loyalty are eventually exposed. Time and truth are powerful allies. My wife and my best friend had believed they could act without consequence, but in reality, consequences had already been building quietly, and the moment of reveal made them visible to everyone. Even as they faced shame, I did not seek revenge through cruelty. I did not humiliate them further than the truth already had. I understood that exposure was the most effective form of justice. Their suffering was a natural consequence of their actions. By standing calmly, revealing the truth, and letting evidence speak, I ensured that justice was served without descending into anger or chaos. Over time, the bonds they had broken with me and others became permanent reminders of their betrayal. They lost the trust, love, and respect that they had once taken for granted. Every interaction reminded them of the public reveal. Every glance, every whispered comment, every sideward look reinforced the lesson they had learned. Their arrogance had been exposed. Their betrayal had been revealed. Their shame had become a lasting truth. For me, the aftermath was a turning point. I learned that suffering and betrayal, though painful, can lead to clarity and strength. I learned that patience, observation, and planning are more powerful than anger. I learned that exposing the truth calmly and publicly can restore dignity and respect that betrayal had attempted to destroy. I had endured the worst of heartbreak and mockery, and I had emerged stronger. In the end, the aftermath was not about punishment alone. It was about restoration. It was about taking back control over a life that had been invaded by betrayal. It was about seeing justice through truth, not through anger. My wife and my best friend had faced the consequences of their actions. I had reclaimed my dignity, my strength, and my sense of purpose. The world had seen the truth, and in that, I found peace. After the public reveal and the aftermath, my life changed in ways I had not expected. I walked away calmly, without shouting, without tears, without anger. The house I once shared with betrayal no longer held me. I stepped into the world with a quiet confidence, a heart that had been hurt, but a mind that had grown stronger. The pain remained, but it no longer controlled me. Instead, it became a foundation for a new life, built on truth and clarity. I began to rebuild my life slowly, carefully. I focused on myself, my health, my work, and my personal growth. I did not rush. I did not try to erase the past, because the past had shaped me. The betrayal had taught me lessons that could not be learned in comfort. I learned to recognize signs of dishonesty, to value true loyalty, and to respect my own heart. Every step I took was deliberate, every choice intentional. My friends and family who had once supported me became my pillars again. They saw the calm with which I had handled betrayal, the patience with which I had collected proof, and the courage with which I had revealed the truth. Respect returned to me, not because I had fought with anger, but because I had fought with wisdom. The life I rebuilt was stronger because it was based on respect, honesty, and truth. I also learned to trust again, but differently. My trust was no longer blind. I observed, I listened, I evaluated. But I did not carry suspicion like a burden. I allowed relationships to grow slowly, tested over time, strengthened by honesty. The betrayal had taught me that love and loyalty are powerful, but they must be protected by awareness and clarity. I carried these lessons with me into every new connection. Work and life continued, but with a new perspective. I found strength in my routine, peace in my decisions, and satisfaction in living a life guided by my own values rather than the opinions of others. I discovered small joys again, quiet mornings, a good meal, meaningful conversations. These small moments, once taken for granted, became treasures because I had lost the illusion of trust and rebuilt it carefully in my own life. I also learned that revenge is not about anger. Revenge is not about hurting others. True revenge is exposure and truth. It is patience, strategy, and dignity. By revealing my wife and my best friend calmly, with evidence, I had enacted the most powerful form of justice. Their shame was public, but my peace was private. I walked away stronger, wiser, and unbroken. Over time, I found new purpose. I helped others who were betrayed, offering advice, support, and understanding. I shared my story quietly, not for attention, but to show that even in the face of betrayal, one can rise. I became an example of endurance and patience, proof that betrayal does not have to destroy a person. The lessons I learned from heartbreak were now tools for a stronger, more deliberate life. My heart healed slowly, but it healed. I stopped living in the shadows of anger and pain. I forgave myself for trusting too deeply, for being vulnerable, and for loving fully. These were not weaknesses. They were strengths that had been tested and refined by betrayal. I learned to honor my love, my loyalty, and my patience as weapons, not weaknesses. I embraced solitude when necessary, but not loneliness. Solitude gave me clarity, focus, and time to reflect. It helped me strengthen my mind and body, to rebuild my confidence, and to live according to my own standards rather than the opinions of others. I understood finally that life is a path, and betrayal is only a lesson along the way. It does not define who you are unless you allow it. Through this new path, I became a man who could love, trust, and live freely again. I was no longer blind to deception, no longer naive to mockery. I had endured the worst of betrayal, planned calmly, acted wisely, and emerged stronger. Every step I took on this path was deliberate, every choice reflecting the lessons of the past. I was free, not because the betrayers were punished, but because I had chosen peace and truth over chaos and anger. In the end, my new path was simple: live honestly, act with dignity, trust carefully, and let truth guide every decision. The betrayal that had once crushed me now taught me how to walk with strength and clarity. My life, though marked by sorrow and deception, had been reshaped into one of purpose, wisdom, and quiet power. Walking this new path, I finally understood that betrayal does not have the final word. The final word belongs to truth, patience, and those who choose to rise above cruelty. I had risen, I had reclaimed my life, I had honored my loyalty, and in that, I found the peace I had been searching for, the strength I had longed for, and the freedom that only truth can bring. Now, as an old man, I look back at that time with steady eyes. The pain of betrayal, the agony of mockery, the heartbreak of losing trust, all of it is still alive in my memory, but it does not control me. I survived, I endured, I acted wisely, and I learned that the greatest strength is patience, clarity, and truth. The years have passed, but the lessons remain. I understand now that betrayal can hurt, but it cannot destroy unless you allow it. I recall the first signs, the subtle shifts I ignored, the cruel words behind closed doors. I remember the nights of silent agony, lying awake, heart aching, mind restless. I remember the breaking point, the moment I saw the betrayal with my own eyes. I remember the careful planning, collecting proof, preparing for the day when truth would speak louder than lies. All of these moments shaped me, taught me, and strengthened me. I remember the public reveal clearly, standing calmly, exposing the betrayal to family and friends, letting evidence speak for itself. The shock, the gasps, the silence, they are images and sounds I carry with me even now. I saw the shame on their faces, the collapse of their arrogance, the destruction of their false pride. I understood in that moment that revenge is not anger, not violence, not chaos. True revenge is truth, exposure, and calm precision. I remember the aftermath. The isolation my wife and my best friend faced, the loss of respect, the permanent consequences of their choices. I walked away without anger, without malice, without rage. I reclaimed my dignity, my confidence, and my peace. I understood that the world may have tried to make me a victim, but I chose to rise above it. I chose to let the truth be my weapon and my shield. Over the years, I rebuilt my life. I trusted differently, loved carefully, and valued loyalty in a new way. I learned to protect my heart without closing it. I learned to observe without becoming cynical. I learned that suffering teaches, betrayal sharpens, and patience empowers. The lessons of that time continue to guide me, even now, as I age and reflect on life. I see now that betrayal is a test, not a defeat. It is a trial that shows who we truly are, how strong we can be, and what we value most. My wife and my best friend tested me, mocked me, and hurt me, but they also revealed my own strength. I discovered patience, planning, and calmness. I discovered the power of truth. I discovered that even in the darkest moments, a clear mind and steady heart can turn suffering into victory. Looking back, I also see the importance of timing. The breaking point, the silent observation, the collection of proof. These were all necessary steps. Acting too early would have weakened my position. Acting with anger would have allowed them to twist the story. Waiting, planning, and revealing at the right moment ensured that truth triumphed over lies. Time was my ally, and patience became my weapon. I reflect often on the lessons I learned about loyalty and love. Trust is powerful, but it can be abused. Love is deep, but it can be mocked. Sacrifice is noble, but it can be ridiculed. Yet when betrayal is met with wisdom and truth, the consequences for the betrayers are severe, and the integrity of the betrayed is restored. My life after betrayal has been stronger because I learned this lesson firsthand. Now I speak with younger men, with friends, with family. I share my story quietly, not for attention, but to teach. I tell them that betrayal can happen to anyone, but it does not have to end you. I tell them that silent observation, careful planning, and calm exposure are stronger than anger or revenge. I tell them that truth, patience, and dignity are weapons that last longer than hatred. Finally, I reflect on what it means to live a life rebuilt. I have found peace in honesty, strength in patience, and freedom in truth. I have learned to forgive myself for trusting fully, loving deeply, and believing in loyalty. Those were not mistakes. They were proof of the man I am, the values I hold, and the life I am capable of building. Betrayal tested me, but it did not defeat me. My final thought as I sit and remember everything is simple. They mocked my love. They betrayed my trust. They thought they could destroy me. But I revealed their lies, calmly, carefully, and publicly. I acted with truth, not anger. I chose patience over chaos. I chose exposure over revenge. And in doing so, I reclaimed my life, my dignity, and my peace. That was enough. That was victory. That was the lesson that betrayal could never take away from me.